You know, in the old days, like in the late 50s, we used to live in Vineyard Town on Burkham Avenue. And right around the corner, I think on Deanery Road, was the Globe. And I remember going to the Globe once or twice a week. And I remember the scary movie, I think it's called The Blob or something like that, which I watched at the Globe. And then when the hurricane wiped out our house on Burkham Avenue, we moved up to Seaview Avenue, which is right off Old Hope Road. And at that time, we'll go to the Odeon at Halfway Tree, on the Carib at Crossroads, and then Tropical, which is, I think it was down on Slight Road, if I'm not mistaken. And my uncle, who lived off South Camp Road, we used to go to Gaiety to watch movies. And we watched all the westerns, you know, those usual things. And it was fun in those days. Oh, don't forget Harbor View Drive-In. Everybody used to go there. So that's where I am on the cinema in Kingston. I remember seeing at the Globe, I can't remember it was the Blob or what it was, but I mean, I saw that at the Globe. Now, the other titles of horror movies, I can't remember them. It's been so long, Ray. It's been, God, 43 years since I've moved to the States. Well, the Carib was the covered one, and we always enjoy going to the Carib, and we knew all the people who worked there because they see us as a family all the time. And we'll sit in the balcony, and that was always enjoyable. We'll drive to the Carib, and I remember the parking lot was right across the street from the entrance of the Carib. And then the Tropical down on Slight Road, I think, was open air. And we would always go to the balcony area, so just in case if it rained, we'll be under cover. And the same thing at the Odeon, we'll drive there. Usually my parents will take us to the movies. You know, I remember once from Seaview Avenue taking the bus to the Carib to see a movie there. Either my parents will drive us there or we'll take the bus to get there. But I know when it comes to Harbor View Drive-In, that was an outing. We all go out there for the evening to see a show. I don't even know if the Harbor View Drive-In is even still there. The Ward Theatre, yes, I remember when we were there in the 50s and 60s, I just attended the Ward to see a pantomime. But when I got back to Kingston in the early 70s, and when I started managing the LTM, that's when I was at the Ward Theatre every night for pantomime, you know, running the box office, the front of house, along with Celia Carter, you know, George Carter's wife. We did the box office there. She did it at Times Store as well, and Inez Hibbert did it at Times Store downtown. But Greta and Henry Fowler were instrumental in getting the Ward Theatre renovated in the 70s, and I understand it's being renovated again, soon to be opened. I hope it will continue being used as a performing center because it's a beautiful building. And I don't think I ever watched a movie at the Ward. The only time I was there was for pantomime. Well, it wasn't really after it got renovated. The guy who managed it, who I met with every evening when I'm down there, he was pretty careful about everything there, and we never had any trouble. The 10 years I was managing the LTM when we had pantomime, we never had any issues with fire or nothing like that. So, I think it's once it's renovated, they took care of some issues. So I'm sure it's fine now. That is such a historic building that, I mean, the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation should do everything to make sure it's restored and used because it's a very historic building. Well, it was built from in the 1800s by Colonel Ward as a gift to, I think, the city of Kingston, if I'm not mistaken. And it really is. I mean, the building, the Ward Theatre, is a building you will see in Europe. And it is such a beautiful structure. It should really be maintained and used frequently for performances, as well as visiting, performing groups from abroad, because it really is an excellent building and a beautiful structure. Right, we call the top store the Foul Roost. You remember that? But there was the orchestra, and then you had the dress circle, the balcony, where the governor's box was. When we invited important people, that's where they seat. So, and it sat, I think it seated about close to 1,000 people, 900 or 1,000 people. Right. The ground floor, which is the orchestra, and then you have the dress circle, which was the second floor, and then you had the way up on the top, as we used to call it, the foul roost. Right. And during pantomime, a lot of the school groups sat up there. In my days, I don't remember any live performance there. Maybe if I remember correctly, you remember Byron Lee and the Dragonaires? I think they performed there once, but really at the Carib, I saw mainly movies. The movie was wonderful. It was an air conditioned building. It was a large screen, and it was so comfortable sitting in the carriage to watch a movie. And that building also is such an impressive building. Oh yeah, the Regal right up the road on right up Crossroads, and then there's also the State Theater. Oh, the Regal was very nice. Wasn't that, if I remember correctly, just half a mile from the Carib? The Regal was covered. That's correct. The Regal, the Odeon was open air. The State, that was, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that a covered cinema as well? I remember the State being covered. Then the Regal is covered, Carib is covered, and the others, I think, are all open air. And to tell the honest truth, I enjoy the open air. The LTM. Let me tell you that place, and I remember after when I was in graduate school in the late 60s, early 71, Henry Fowler called me and said, "We need you to come back because we need your uh, theater administration expertise." So I came back to Jamaica and worked with Doris Dupley, the late Doris Dupley, and until she became ill and passed away, I took over completely and worked with Henry and Greta Fowler and all those absolutely wonderful actors, Louise and Ranny Williams, Lois Kelly, Leonie Forbes, directors like Norman Ray, uh, Pauline Stone, all those wonderful people. And I'm so sorry most of them have passed. And I'm hoping that the little theater in Kingston will continue now that we have also lost Barbara Gloudon, which is sad, as well as the other artistic people like Rex Nettleford Jackie Guy, Barry Moncrief, Bert Rose with the NDTC. It's sad that we've lost all those valuable people. But anyway, I am hoping there is someone who can continue the little theater movement and the pantomime. Not when I was there from 1971 to 1980. No, we didn't show any movies there. It was all, performances by productions put on by the Little Theater or the NDTC, or I handled the performing arts groups that came to perform in Jamaica from England, from Germany, and I remember I handled the National Ballet of Cuba when they came and they performed at the Ward Theater. So, but no movies. I don't remember seeing a movie at the Little Theater during my time there. I remember there was a New York dance company that performed there as well, and also a Russian folkloric company also performed there. So it was interesting those days. I think a theater has much more, I have to say, accessories because you got to have the backstage area, you've got the fly area for scenery, you have to have a sound system, you have a lighting board for the different, for the stage lighting. While a cinema really is the projection room and the screen, while the theater needs a bit more accessories for it to really make a performance shine. Oh, a theater, I think, for the performing arts has to be maintained because there's a lot of wear and tear backstage, with the performers, with the dressing rooms. There's always curtains to be uh, redone or mended. There's lighting fixtures that always has to be upgraded. There's a sound system. There's a lighting board, which, when it becomes obsolete, has to be replaced. So there's a lot of maintenance to make a theater workable for all groups. The cinema, you got to have a projector and a good projector and keeping a building clean. But the theater, I think, will take a lot more to maintain than just a cinema. The chairs are important, of course. And I know at the Little Theater they have been updated so they're more comfortable. I know at the Ward Theater, when it was renovated in the 70s, it was also nice, comfortable chairs were installed. So the seats are something very important and it has to be graded, so people in the front can see as good as people in the back. The theater has to be maintained. You've got to have a permanent cleaning staff. At the Little Theater, we were fortunate to have someone there who kept the building clean on a daily basis. And that has to be done not only front of house, but also backstage. You also need to have somebody who is more the technical manager who has to make sure that things are always in working condition. The cinema is a little different. You don't need all these people to be maintaining the building constantly, while in a performing arts center, that is very necessary. Oh, yes, a cleaning staff, of course. When you have movies back to back or you have three showings in one day, you've got to have a cleaning staff in there, You know how people can drop their food wrappers and the cups and all that sort of thing. That has to be done on a, between shows. Well, you have to think about all the expenses that go with it. You have to think about the water, the electricity, the cleaning, the upkeep. If there's any rent to be paid. Luckily, at Little Theater, we owned it, so didn't there was no rent involved. But there is a constant maintenance schedule that has to be kept, and that costs money. And the Little Theater produces a pantomime, and the proceeds, the profits from the pantomime, is what kept the Little Theater running, and as well as rent that is charged to the various groups that use the theater. But the proceeds from the pantomime subsidize that a lot, and also maintain the building. I, I think so. It was a pretty extensive interview here, Ray, and I appreciate talking with you.